Welcome to the Fifth Gait podcast. We have thrown around the idea of a podcast for years, but we finally made it happen, stuck in the truck together on a 10-hour road trip from a horse show, of course. Our passion is the Icelandic horse and all aspects of the worldwide community that surrounds this breed. Here, we come together as equestrian professionals to share our hardest lessons, biggest wins, and our future hopes in Icelandic horsemanship. Our conversations aim to educate, inspire, and grow all people like us who love Icelandic horses, from enthusiasts and amateurs to trainers, competitors, and field specialists. Today, we will be sharing with you our very first episode where I interview my dear friend, colleague, and partner in these podcast adventures, Mackenzie Durbin. These questions dive deep into career origin stories, good old shop talk, and an emphasis on training and real day-to-day work. And finally, questions centered around the future of horsemanship and how we see the industry evolving. So please enjoy this episode, getting to know Mackenzie, and join us as we embark on this podcast journey. This is our first time doing this, so everyone's going to have to bear with us a little bit. And that's why we're doing it with each other as opposed to having anybody else on with us, although that is our long-term goal. So we're going to start today with me, Carrie, interviewing Mackenzie. And on the drive back from a show, we brainstormed a bunch of questions. So we're also doing a bit of a trial and error here, testing out our questions on each other.
Perhaps these questions might not make it past this episode.
Yeah, exactly. So if someone likes these questions after hearing them and wants to hear other people's answers to them, I'd love to hear that. We kind of have 3 categories today that we're going to cover. And our hope is to kind of continue these 3 themes in the future. The first category is personal story questions. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask Mackenzie kind of just about her life with horses. And then we're going to move on to talking more shop talk, more actual, like why we train the way we train and training discussions, horsemanship discussions. In the end, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the future of horsemanship. I think that section of questions is my personal, most excited group of questions to ask, because I think especially once we start to interview other people, I'm just really curious about the answers. Yeah. Not that I'm not curious for your answers too. You get the hot seat being number 1 here.
But isn't that like the worst? Like at a horse show, the last place you want to be is the first on the track.
The first on the track. Some people say you score lower scores when you go first. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's proven that statistically speaking.
Anyways.
But
so this is going to be our lowest scoring episode.
Yeah, I have heard that the judges usually score better after their coffee break. So have you had coffee?
Not yet.
Not yet. But we're going to start with a first question, and it's share a moment from your childhood that put you on the path to being a horse professional.
I got to see all of these questions obviously beforehand, and I thought about this one, and really it was hard to say it was any particular moment, but it was more like a series of moments of just realizing that in horsemanship or interacting with horses was where I felt the most empowered. I'm sure there's all kinds of different science behind it that you could explain away, but when I think of all the other activities, sports that I participated in, I remember distinctly like feeling so proud of myself, more so than in anything else, when I would accomplish something that I was trying to do with my horse, whether it be popping over a cross rail or making a certain time. I did a little bit of everything growing up as a kid, but I always went back to that as I started to decide what my career was. And I came from a family that had nothing to do with horses. My parents loved animals. We had like a zoo of a household just filled with all kinds of different pets, but horses were not something that they were familiar with at all. We were always drawn towards them. I say we, me and my sisters. When I started to think about my career, I just realized, wait, I can do whatever I want to do. It had never been, I guess, presented as an option to go into the horse industry. Once I figured out that that was a possibility, then that's what I knew I wanted to do. So
yeah, and so I know this, maybe other people don't, but you've also exited and entered?
Yes, and that gets covered in the other questions. I'm very good at it.
What caused you to re-enter? Because you've re-entered a couple times.
I felt the most empowered. I felt the most fulfilled. I felt the most challenged by far. Because as you know, being a professional in the industry, I mean, it's a very, all positions, all roles are so multifaceted. You're not showing up every day and doing the same thing. And I know that's pretty redundant. Everybody says that, but it really is true. Like, because you really are generally like you're your own manager of your time. And so that's a different level of responsibility that you don't see in like an hourly paid job. And then the environment looks very different. I mean, you could be at the barn, you could be trailering a horse to Iowa.
Yes.
You could be teaching off-site. I mean, it goes all kinds of different ways. Yeah.
Some days it's like if only it was just training horses.
Some days we sure wish it looked more or less the same. Routine would be nice sometimes.
Yes, some days. In your journey, and this kind of builds on the previous question, in your journey to becoming a professional, what made you almost quit?
Honestly, people. While I do it for the people, for sure. I absolutely. Like, I think that was also one of the draws back as I re-entered the industry several times. But it was also what pushed me away. And I think when I look back at those times when people really pushed me and like discouraged me to the point that I never actually, I was thinking about this. I never actually completely quit.
Yes.
I just quiet quit is what maybe they say, which is where I really took a big step back and held on to a couple clients, but
and a couple horses.
And a couple horses.
Were always in your life.
Yeah. There was always like a couple training horses, but then I picked up another job for income, and just I think subconsciously I was reevaluating my decisions, but it definitely people were what pushed me to almost quit.
When you say people, what in particular?
Yeah, I think it was just moments where, or different client relationships where I found myself being taken advantage of. And, honestly, I'm not sure I was necessarily even being taken advantage of. It was just more my lack of maybe preparation for just when things didn't go to plan. And then us kind of treading water and trying to figure out what the way out was. And then it just felt unfair for all parties, which I hate for people to be disappointed in me. Yeah. And so that alone was discouraging, but also I think just maybe a lack of maturity and lack of experience that didn't set me up well for those situations.
Yeah, I think it's like curse of doing what you love. That when you're doing what you love, you don't go into relationships setting boundaries that create long-term success always.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily anybody's fault, except that you didn't do that ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so then you fall into these traps that just create hurt. Third question on my list here is, if you had to explain to a non-horse person what you did for a living as a horse trainer, you're a horse trainer, riding instructor, in a couple of minutes. So we're on
a couple minutes?
Yeah, like a couple of minutes, maybe a minute, right? Like an elevator pitch.
Okay.
What would you say?
Really, I think horse training boils down to creating a framework for horses and people to communicate, and then teaching people how to use that framework, and then helping horses understand that framework.
Yeah.
Like, it's already within just a horse's nature to understand the way that we use our aids, but it's actually creating a framework that allows them to offer the things that we're asking them for. And so that's the horse training part, but I also do a lot of teaching, which falls under that.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of like social media stuff too, digital marketing, which digital marketing is actually all about communication as well. It's visual communication and organization.
If you're thinking back on your career, what is a moment that you are most proud of and a moment that you were most humbled by or disappointed by?
Yeah, I think the moment, the accomplishment that I've been most proud of was actually evaluating my mare. But I think primarily because it felt self-made. Like, it really felt like this was a horse that I put at least a majority of its recent, or all of its recent training on myself. And then I also did all the preparation myself and learned a lot along the way, because that was the first time I'd ever ridden evaluations. And so knowing about it, or knowing it and understanding it, and then actually doing it are, of course, two completely different things. Yeah, I think that was definitely the thing I'm most proud of.
So for those people that have never heard of breeding assessments or evaluations, what are they? Can you just real quick give a description of what that is and what that means?
So yes, so in Icelandic horses, it's an entire assessment of the horse's gaits and the horse's conformation, and it's done in the most quantifiable way possible, without really any of it being that quantifiable. And there's a whole scoring system that is based on data. Yeah. Entirely on data. And really, and it's a completely permanent record. It really, it's almost a part of your horse's identification in the database is the breeding assessment. Yeah, that would probably be my best definition. Absolutely. I don't know what you would add to that.
No, and I think I'd add that it impacts something called their BLUP score, which is their best linear unbiased predictive score that goes in World Finger. It can impact even all of their relatives' scores with the BLUP. It's something that sticks with them for the rest of their life. So in competitions, it's the horse and rider. In breeding assessments, it's really just the horse's record. Yeah. The thing I love most, which we got to do the assessments with you, is because it's all about the horse, it's not about the people. Yeah. So you're just working to bring out the best in your horse, no matter what. Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, I can see how that would be a really fun moment, especially when it's your horse and all your training and all your investment there.
Yeah, and going back to the BLUP score and also how assessments affect the BLUP score, what I think is so cool about the Icelandic horse, just the database, World Finger, or just the whole process of the breeding evaluations, is that the evaluations are not for the horse and they're not for the breeder. They're for the breed as a whole. Yeah. And it's for collecting data to make more educated decisions about breeding. Which is cool, because as it affects their parents, it affects their offspring, all down the line. It's for the breed as a whole.
It's a community endeavor.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's a moment you're proud of.
Oh, right. Most humbled by.
The awkward one.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say what's really humbling right now is the gelding I'm competing on right now. And I think there are a lot of different pieces to that. He's a great horse. He's a true four-gaiter. He's huge. His conformation definitely doesn't work with him. If anything, works against him. And it's just been a learning curve for me, because he didn't come to me with any kind of preparedness to be competing. He needed a lot of development, still needs a lot of development. And just riding this horse that has a lot of movement, but also, like I said, has where his body is working against him while he has a lot of movement to be balancing. It's just been a learning curve. And it's been humbling, because as a professional, I haven't had this kind of challenge in a while, because the opportunity to compete at a higher level it's just fewer and far between in the US, because there just aren't as many horses, especially not competition horses. A lot of people are importing for more leisure riding, which those can still be nice horses, but it's definitely a different kind of horse. I think it surprised me a little bit how it has just taken more time than I expected for me to be putting all those pieces together. I'm not necessarily discouraged, but it just reminds me that I still have so much to learn. This is the other thing about the US, is that we don't get that many opportunities to compete. Yeah. So I think last year I went to 6 shows total. Yeah. And of those 6 shows, I actually only competed on him twice.
Yeah.
So I've actually only competed on him twice this year. So we've actually only competed 4 times together, but those 4 times, it's the same issue every time, which is humbling because it's like, okay, I still haven't figured that one out.
Yeah.
But you never know how it's going. Everybody or competitors know this. Like, until you're on the track, you really don't know how it's going to go. You can prepare and prepare. Now, as you become more prepared or as you become more experienced, you can, I guess, you can control the risk to a degree.
You increase the probability of a positive outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
no, it's why I think
that's been humbling for sure.
Yeah, it's so healthy. I always tell people it's like the best riders do compete. And it's not because they're good competitors. It's because the process of competing forces you to face the reality of your training skills in a moment in time in a way that it is humbling more times than not.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, then really offers you a moment for growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And gives you so many things to continue working on. Finally, who has had the most impact on your career as a coach or mentor? Is there someone that comes to mind on that front, or a couple someones?
I know it's corny, but I like the only person I could think of was to answer you.
Oh.
I know. But the biggest, like, going back to how I've quit and re-entered and quit and re-entered, the thing that I've learned from that is that it is so hard to do this alone.
Yeah.
And while I wasn't doing it alone the first 1 or 2 times I tried, I attempted being a self-employed horse professional, I also hadn't quite grafted myself to a community where I really felt supported, or like I really felt like, you know, if the floor was falling out from under me, that it would be okay. And I think with each time, I just recognized how important that was. And thankfully, Carrie being local, both of us being local, that makes it a lot easier.
Local and persistent.
Yeah. Carrie's very persistent. Maybe a little neurotically persistent. Yeah, so, and then you now, like I was thinking, I've probably been doing this, I don't know, self-employed, but I've been a professional in the industry for like 9 years, 8 years. And I mean, you're like twice that at this point, maybe?
I guess it depends upon the moment that you consider professional. So, yeah, not quite.
Well, when did you start
then.
teaching people, like coaching anyone?
When I was 18, 19.
But still, but you also have had a more established business from the beginning, which has lent you all kinds of experience that is just slower to come by for me, just because I wasn't as established to begin with. I've definitely leaned on that. It's like every time I have a new scenario that I'm dealing with, I'm calling you. I'm like, have you had this happen before? What did you do?
That's part of the reason we're doing this whole podcast.
Which is important.
Is we talk all the time about this stuff. So might as well share that. Yeah, I think it's interesting too that you said that the breeding assessments were such a special moment for you, because if you think about the last breeding assessment you did with Freya, it was in Iowa.
Yes.
And you, Laura Benson, myself, and Terrell were all working together as a team.
Yes.
And I think that was really special. And it's those moments of teamwork that, in spite of all the burnout and troubles that you often have as a professional in this industry, it's those teamwork moments that kind of bring the spirit up and keep us going. Yeah. Moving on a little bit into some more training talk, this may build on some of the other questions once again, which I love. What is the most important horse in your life or career?
I don't know that I would be as confident without actually, be as confident in saying that I was a professional without my mare, who I could at least compete at a certain level with. Like, if I didn't have that quality of a horse, which she's not topping the charts, but she is a quality horse to where I can still show up in an open level class and execute something proficiently.
So that is your mare, Freya.
Yeah, Freya. Yeah, my mare, Freya.
I was hoping you were going to say that, and then when you started, I was like, oh, maybe it's someone else.
No, I really was thinking like I could go through all of those different horses that taught me very different things, and mainly because they were such problems in those horses.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, it was not really problems within them, but more problems within timing of the rider.
Yeah.
And that's what they taught me, timing about all kinds of different things. But with Freya, like, you kind of need a horse to build your career on.
She's the one that set you on that.
And she is the one, she's the one that I did that with.
Absolutely. What part of Icelandic culture impacts your work most?
Oh, yeah.
So when you're training, you spent time in Iceland. You went and worked for Hinni and Hulda in Iceland. You've worked within the Icelandic horse community for years now. I think we all can agree that Icelandic horsemanship has its unique culture around it. Is there a particular aspect of that you feel impacts your training or educates your training?
I love about Icelandic culture is I love that even the culture itself is very, honestly, forward thinking. We problem solve towards what works and towards solutions, and not towards what we think is best.
Now, or what the tradition necessarily
or what the tradition is either. Right. Yes, like not tied to tradition whatsoever.
Yeah,
because if it's not working, then it's no longer a part of the solution. And that's what I love about it, though, because what I have found in Icelandic horsemanship is at least going to different trainers and working under different trainers is we all operate under the same framework, that has framed what Icelandic horsemanship is, but within that there is a freedom of developing what works for you.
Yeah.
And what works for you still, I think, good, like you've said before, good horsemanship is universal. Like still the ideals beneath it are the same. However, for what works for you at your farm with your kind of client, also with your kind of horse, like that is going to look different.
Yes.
And still be true. True might not be the right word.
It's going to be necessary for that situation.
Necessary for that situation, yes.
Yeah.
And then the same goes for me as, within my group of students and within my horses and within also just the way that I might articulate something. Universally, it is more or less the same, but it is also the Icelandic horsemanship as a culture allows the freedom for us to operate with our own uniqueness.
Well, I think what you're saying in a lot of ways is that you're saying that we operate within certain tenets or principles.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of flexibility for creative implementation. Yes. And we're motivated to always find a better way to do it. Right? So we maybe all share a similar goal of more horse-friendly practices or better results or whatever it is, right? We share these principles, but our route to those, we're very flexible. If something better comes along, we'll move to the better way. And we don't hesitate with kind of embracing that progress.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what that looks like may be different.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's really cool about it is as much as that sounds so abstract.
Yes.
And sounds like maybe this would be something that applies more to the U.S. Yeah. I do think it actually rings true as you go from barn to barn in Iceland, is everybody has their different approaches in starting young horses and like their different system or process. But we're all working towards the goal of like horse friendliness.
Core values stay the same.
Yes.
But there's variation.
Yeah.
Creativity within that. What is your favorite gait to train? So Icelandic horses are 5-gaited. They have the walk, trot, and canter like the other horses. They also have the tolt and pace. Mm-hmm. So as an Icelandic horse trainer, we grapple with all 5. Do you have a particular gait that you enjoy?
Yeah. So I love training canter.
Oh, really?
I was thinking of this. I mean, yes, the good trainer answer for me would be like, oh, because it's the only asymmetrical gait. And so it really helps like identify and also work through weaknesses very pointedly.
Yes.
However, what I love about it is I love the moment when you have trained the canter transition, say with like a 5-gaited horse who might have a hard time with a canter transition, at least initially in their training. And when you get to the point where you ask for the canter and they step into it because they have reframed their understanding of canter from just rushing forward until they make it into canter to actually being like more mentally and physically balanced in the transition. So I was thinking like, really, when you reach that feeling in a canter transition, it's a huge indicator of like a pretty mentally and physically balanced horse, at least where they have an advanced understanding of the driving aids.
Yeah. Yes.
Because until they understand that, they still are working out what a driving aid actually is. Does that make sense?
Well, and it's all about really control of their balance.
Yeah, control of their balance. And then, but I do think part of the control of their balance is also their mental balance too. Because it's them actually preparing their bodies to step into it rather than rushing through the application of the driving aid.
I once worked with a French dressage instructor, I think I've told you, and he described my transitions as vomiting into canter. So I fully appreciate you can go from vomiting into canter to
stepping into
canter, which is a really rewarding. Plus you have gallop. Maybe that's why you like reading assessments so much.
It's true.
Because in reading assessments you get to gallop. I know that's my favorite part of reading assessments. This is a kind of tricky question, and you could go very esoteric on this one, but what is the most important aspect of horse-human communication for you?
Really, my first thought, but this might not be understanding the question correctly, but my first thought was that the most important aspect is emotional regulation. Mainly because that is, I think, the hardest thing to overcome with horses as you work with them more. Yes, you can be a student in a riding school and show up for like a lesson with structure, but the moment you are standing there alone with your horse trying to accomplish something, that's when that is really tested. It becomes very humbling very quickly, just when you realize maybe how little self-control, and when I say self-control, I mean maybe patience, or just how little emotional regulation you may have in a moment when something's not working.
Now, what does emotional regulation mean to you? And when you say that, are you talking about the human or the horse or both?
I'm talking about the human here.
Okay.
And when I say emotional regulation, I just mean ability or inability to detach your emotions from your environment or from who or what, in this case, a horse. And when I think of emotional regulation in terms of horses, I think about like when you are trying to work through teaching something to a horse, they begin to misunderstand the application of your aids, and their emotions escalate momentarily. It's so easy to allow your emotions to escalate with them.
Yeah.
That's the neat thing about working with horses, though, is once you become so acutely aware of that, the horses respond to that and then also work through things. They attune themselves to your system so much more quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like they aren't as distracted by your emotions.
In line with that, what does a successful session or result look for you in regards to a training session? Or you could also do this in regards to like overall with horses in general. What do you want the train, like if you see like, okay, they're with me for this period of time and dream case scenario, they're here, right? As a result, you can kind of pick if you mean session or longer term.
Yeah, so I was thinking of just more individual session. And I mean, I think of that in like what the end result of like a lesson with a student looks like. And with that, you're teaching a student and you're managing a horse at the same time. And so it's very tricky when you've got a beginner or novice rider on a horse who you also are caring for, and you want both of them to end the lesson in positivity and in willingness. That's a challenge. And so I was thinking of that in terms of the lessons. and also thinking about it in a training session as well. And I think ultimately the end result would be equal relaxation and willingness. And when I say willingness, I mean, which is so hard to do. I mean, it's still something that I struggle with, is I think when you are asking a horse for something and you're building them towards what you want them to offer, and then they finally offer it, ending right before, I actually even think right before they offer it at 100%.
Yeah.
Because you want them to
Give more.
give
You want
more,
them to give more
the next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so I often find myself where it's like I ask them and they offer, ask them and they offer. And, I want that feeling of 100%. And so I ask that one more time. But it would have maybe been better to have ended right before I asked the last time before.
Yeah.
Just so that they would be that much more eager to offer it the next session. And so I think that, but then also equal relaxation too. Like, it's not willingness if they're not also relaxed.
It's not stress. It's
right. Because if it's stress, then it's maybe, I mean, you could argue more or less like evasion.
Yes, absolutely.
Rather than.
So when working towards that goal, or just generally in training, what are 3 tools you want the horse to end a session, with stuff in the tank and set up to want to offer those things in the next session? What are 3 tools that you feel like help you get there?
I'm thinking about lessons right now, and I'm thinking about working a student through my riding school. Is we go back and forth in what is a priority in the lesson. Sometimes we are working on your seat, we're working on your posture, we're working on, how you hold the reins, how you operate your arms in order to create contact. In other lessons, we are working on their communication with the horse, and I'm not looking at the student nearly as much as I'm looking at the response that the horse is giving to the student.
The interplay.
Yeah. And then what I'm doing is I am like hyper focusing on the system of the aids. And as a teacher, you had mentioned this to me once about maybe installing some cues to help the horses understand what the students are asking for, whether it be like rounding or it be even gait cues. So for years, I have tried to really differentiate vocal cues for the gaits. And so that just helps create more positivity for the horses, but then also sets up more success for the students as well. And then also being very clear about like leg position. And it's not so much about the correctness of it, rather than like the pre-signal that it offers the horses to give them the opportunity to offer what the student is asking for before the student starts overriding them. And it just makes it positive for everyone. So that's what I think is one of the tools, is like vocal cues or other cues just built in to set them up for more success. But that's true in my training sessions too. The other thing I thought of was just patience. This is trusting the process, and that one ride doesn't define where the training is.
Yes. Look at the overall progression.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even 1 week.
Yeah.
Doesn't define where that horse is in its training. Being patient and trusting the process. And then also, I mean, it might be worth stepping back and bringing colleagues in to ask if they have any insight or anything they're seeing that you're not.
What was the third?
I actually didn't say a third.
You didn't say a third? Okay.
No,
That's all good.
It's fine. I don't think I can think of a third one.
It's all good. I think there's only one more question in this general category left, and that's, how do you mentally and physically take care of yourself for your job?
Ooh, this was a hard one to answer.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I don't have any set routine for how I create like respite or how I create. Sorry, we have a guest, guys.
We have a guest.
A doggy, if you can't hear it panting, or you'll see it in the video. Anyways, it's really hard to find respite at home.
Yeah.
True rest, because home is not a separation from your job, because it's part of your workspace as well.
You work from home forever.
Yeah, yeah. And so really when I feel the most at rest, which is what actually I try to do often, is just physically removing myself from any attachment to my job. That might be like going across town to like a farmer's market or something. And like I intentionally will leave my phone at home if I know it's just going to be 2 or 3 hours, just to try to create as much separation as possible for that time being, and doing that often. Because there's no routine and there's no like there's no set rhythm, but that also is just, that comes with horses. Like it's not a 9 to 5, so you just do it when you can.
Yeah, I think that's actually a neat point though about home, because so many of us trainers, like Terrell and I, we live at the location of our business.
Yeah.
We're kind of always on duty or on call, always responsible for what may be happening in our business that is also our home. And so really kind of finding moments of respite where you're genuinely free of all of those responsibilities is tricky. It's a tough thing in our industry to cope with. I think most of the time you love it so much it doesn't matter, but no one can do that forever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason in the world today, I feel like we're at so many like junctures. And I think that that's true of the world as a whole, but it's also really true in the horse industry. There's so many different directions and discussions and debates going on what the future of the Icelandic horse industry specifically looks like, and then the horse industry as a whole. There are a lot of conversations about the social license to operate within Fife. So it's a neat topic, and it matters a lot to us. You said earlier about like the Icelandic horse community, and what you love about our culture is that willingness to be open to progress.
Yeah.
So I think that's why this group of questions is like
It's
so
fun.
close to heart and so fun.
Yeah.
We enjoy that. What value do horses have for humans and society now? And also, what value do you see them have moving forward?
I really do think horses teach you so much about yourself. I have found, just as an equestrian, you have to have so much self-awareness, whether it be physical, emotional, mental. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Sometimes it is at the expense of the horse.
Yeah.
But it absolutely is for our own development, and it's a gift. It's a lifelong lesson with horses.
For me, I think one of the things that horses are so good at is they just give you an honest reflection.
And they can't say one thing
through
and
our
mean
entire
another.
being.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the reason why. But you know, if you had to say what quality, do you think it's just horses' sensitivity that comes out there, their ability to read body language?
They are so much more present within themselves. I mean, a horse isn't thinking, man, I got to do this later.
Yes.
They're there. I think that is what makes them such great teachers.
They anchor us.
Yeah. Is that they tell us exactly what's going on with us.
Yeah.
Because they've got nothing else going on other than us right in front of them in those moments that we're working with them.
As you said, sometimes that's at the cost of the horse's own mental state, right? Especially if they're ending up in a situation where they're reflecting back to a human that's very emotionally dysregulated. You mentioned emotional regulation was really important as a person with horses. You put a very dysregulated person with horses, that's actually kind of hard on the horse. How do we return the favor? How do you see us benefiting the horse or protecting the horse if that's what they're offering us?
Yeah. I do think that as we answer the question of just what is more horse friendly, like I think that actually the relationship between horses and humans is only going to be more beneficial for the horse as we understand like ideal environments for them to be managed in, like ideal pasture systems, but then also too, like for their physical longevity. And then also even their mental balance. Yeah.
So we're educating ourselves to be stewards, basically.
Yes, stewards, absolutely.
What do you dislike most about the horse industry?
I dislike most. People are so quick to villainize practices that are different from theirs.
Yeah.
Of course, there are certain things that should be outlawed that in no argument could you say are
stewarding the horse.
Are stewarding the horse. Yes. Yeah. But if we were all to gather in a room together, I think we'd all realize that we're here for the good of the horse. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
So why not give each other the grace, the freedom to, and the appreciation that we've just arrived at different places for right now. I mean, we're all working towards better.
Well, that's kind of been a theme of this conversation, is that willingness to be progressive and try new things.
Yeah.
And I do see that a little bit in the industry now, that, you know, certain things are considered the best practice in one group or one training methodology or type. And then everybody that's not in that group is hurting their horse. There's just kind of instant judgment passed to anybody that's othering. Like you said, you have to draw the line somewhere. We're not going to accept every practice as good stewardship. It's different to go, that is a training method I'm not comfortable with, versus to pass judgment on that person.
Yes.
And maybe that's also a little bit of a nuance to consider, is that like someone may be doing that particular training practice because that's the only thing they've been exposed to.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they've had the opportunity to learn.
That is their best effort.
That is their best effort.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come from bad intentions.
Yes.
So where do you see horsemanship in 20 years?
Who knows? But I don't necessarily know that like there'll be no tack in 20 years or anything like that. Like people
will all be riding bridleless through the woods.
Bridleless through the woods on the oval track. I don't know about that, just because I don't know about that, but I do see, like you said, a universally agreed upon definition of like what is best practices.
Yeah.
I see that definitely being a thing in 20 years. For the better.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. We made it through first episode. And we didn't get eaten alive by bugs, so it's great. This is real life. Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Fifth Gate podcast. I know you've heard this on other channels, but it really is so important that you like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening through. We would also love to hear from you on social media. Please send us ideas, suggestions, feedback. Let us know what you're enjoying right now so we can continue to make content you want to watch and hear. We will see you next time on the Fifth Gate podcast.